Hey everybody, it is Trags Mike Petralia. Welcome back to the latest installment of the Code Reds podcast on the CLNS Media Network. My pleasure and privilege to welcome back Mark Sheldon of MLB.com to talk about everything that is Cincinnati Reds and maybe something he is adorning on the top of his head. We'll get to that in a little bit. However, let's get to the subject that everybody wants to talk about, and that is the 6-3 Cincinnati Reds heading in to Miami, Florida. Mark, you were on the ground with the Reds down in Arlington, Texas, in that spaceship that is known as Globe Life Field. Obviously, a 3-game sweep. You don't see that very often from the Reds over the Texas Rangers. What impressed me over the weekend, Mark, was the pitching, especially Rhett Lowder and Chase Burns on Sunday.
Yeah, they were both very good in different ways, but the one way they were the same is they threw strikes very well. Burns, who was not really known for that during his rookie debut season last year, and certainly the first couple of starts at spring training, they just were not economical. They were not efficient. I mean, yes, he throws that power fastball at 100 miles an hour, and he's got a great slider, but he could rack up 80 pitches in 3 or 4 innings sometimes.
Right.
And the fact that he was at 80 pitches through 6 and then earned a 7th inning, I don't know necessarily he would have gotten that 7th inning if Ashcraft, Santillan, and Pagan were available. I think that would have probably been only 6 for him. But between how he felt, how he pitched, and the shorthanded bullpen, it made perfect sense to give him another inning and see what happens. I don't really fault him for the home run. That wind took
blown.
That ball.
Yeah,
Sarah Lang said that ball was taken an extra 25 feet by the wind and 29 feet to the right because of that wind. And Sarah's, our top researcher at MLB.com. And so that was unfortunate, but they did what they had to do and they won the game. And the Reds have been doing that very well. They're not scoring a lot of runs. They're actually last in baseball in runs scored, but they're not playing bad defense. They haven't made an error yet. They are getting situational hits when they need to. They are running the bases very well, and they're pitching. So I think you put it all together, and that's how come they're able to sustain the low output of offense.
What to the point, Mark, on the base running, and I think it was Cowboy Jeff Brantley that made this point on the TV broadcast with John Sadak. It is something that Terry Francona worked on time and time again in spring training, and I know you wrote about this as one of the things Francona worked on this spring. He did not slide into second base. He picked up the ball, and I think it was off the bat of Sal Stewart, who had an opposite field shot to right center field. He picked up the ball. He saw where it was. He had taken off, I believe, with the pitch. And instead of hesitating or even sliding into second base, he picked up full steam around second and was able to score all the way from first base. Last year, that probably doesn't happen, does it?
No, actually, I asked Tito about the base running in general. I was actually also going to refer to a play later in the game. It didn't result in a run, but Sal Stewart was running first, on first base, and Nathaniel Lowe hit a ball to left field, and Stewart was alert enough to see the ball in front of him, and then still managed to get to third base. It was a very alert base running. And then with the De La Cruz play, I actually asked De La Cruz about it. I made a little Instagram video about it yesterday, and exactly right. Tito did say if this was last season, De La Cruz probably would have done a head first slide into second base, and he would have maybe only reached third, and he wouldn't have scored. And I asked De La Cruz about it, and he talked about how much he's been working on that and trying to pick up the ball. He was actually stealing on that play. The hit and run was not on. That was an attempted steal that Stewart was able to connect on, and it really just worked out well. I mean, he saw where the ball was, he picked it up, and was able to keep motoring. And with his speed, scoring from first base on a hit to the opposite field is not out of the question. He's probably one of the few guys that could do that and making it as easily as he did. So that's big stuff there. That's important. I know it's not the sexy stuff to talk about, but that's the kind of stuff that does win games. And yes, it was a priority during camp.
No question. And when you're not scoring runs, that is how you win ball games, right? I mean, when you're dead last in offense and runs produced in Major League Baseball, and you're 6-3, you're doing a lot of the other things that is necessary. You're doing them very, very well at a very, very high rate. You mentioned Chase Burns. I want to talk a little bit about Rhett Lowder and the historic numbers that he is posting to start this season. And obviously, he had a terrific outing on Saturday night. What impressed you the most about what he was able to do, or what he has been able to do in his first two starts?
I mean, seriously, it's so funny because it's almost like a throwback. I mean, you look at pitchers over the years, and Bronson Arroyo certainly comes to mind when you think about this. Is he's not a power pitcher, but you don't need to be a power pitcher if you can locate and change speeds. And Lowder does those two things extremely well. He can throw. He throws four pitches, three of them as a four-seamer, his sinker, and I believe his slider were his three pitches that he had almost equal distribution of.
Right.
He threw a lot of strikes. He did walk a couple of guys here and there, but that's going to happen. But he only gave up singles, I think, and he just locates. And Francona says it, and he's been saying it for a while, but he said it again: is he pitches like a veteran. And this is a guy that's 24 years old with now 8 starts of major league experience going back to 2024. So that's very impressive.
It's very impressive. It's almost shocking to be at that level of proficiency on a team that needs him. That's the other thing we need to keep in mind, Mark. And you and I both know when you hear the news, both in training camp, spring training, and when you hear it right at the end of spring training, you lose Hunter Greene on one end, you lose Nick Lodolo for who knows how long, and we'll get to Nick Lodolo news in just a moment. But when those two pitchers go down, those aren't just middle of the rotation guys. Those are your top two pitchers. So you're throwing so much on these two young arms in addition to Andrew Abbott. Sometimes that would overwhelm young pitchers, but it hasn't been the case and hasn't certainly overwhelmed Rhett Lowder, Chase Burns. And I think the Reds scouting department, when they drafted these two players, they need and deserve a lot of credit because they're not just drafting the talent. Of course, they want the talent, but the demeanor of these two guys, when they drafted them, I think they knew what they were getting.
I'm sure. I mean, they're both, good people, and they seem to have their heads on straight for young guys, and certainly they have each other too, which is an important thing to note. They both graduated, or they were at least drafted out of Wake Forest, and they followed a very similar blueprint. They did not play the year they were drafted. They sat out. They waited till after the season to do some fall league and some instructional league stuff, and then they hit the ground running professionally the following year. Had a very express route to the major leagues. They went from Dayton basically to the big leagues in the same year, and they seem to handle it. That's the thing. I don't think they get overwhelmed. I mean, Lowder had a 1.17 ERA in the 6 starts he had in 24. Now it's 1.30 through 8 starts, which is the lowest of any Red at this point through 8 starts of at least 4 innings or more. He's with names like Fernando Valenzuela, in Major League history since the expansion era. That's impressive. That doesn't happen by accident. He's not just lucking into this till the league figures him out. He's crafty enough to know how to adjust, to how to change speeds, to throw different pitches in different counts. And Arroyo was not afraid, as you know well from Boston and here. He wasn't afraid to not throw a fastball for the first pitch. He could throw a breaking ball or changeup, something they may not be expecting, or he knows who the hitters is. He's obviously studying the hitters, and I'm sure Rhett Lowder is. And then as for Burns, I mean, yesterday was what made it impressive for him on Sunday. Is I think he was like 18 for 22 or 17 for 22 on first pitch strikes, but with his fastball, he was 11 for 14. That's getting your fastball over for strike one, especially if they know it's coming. I mean, he's got good enough fastball; he can get it by guys. But then he sets them up with the other stuff. He has that slider, he has a changeup, I believe, and he's able to use his other pitches to get the strikeouts. He had 9 of them on Sunday.
I know you already made reference to it just a few moments ago. I want to read this paragraph from your story from Arlington, Texas on Sunday. I'm sorry, on Saturday night, about Rhett Lowder. Through
Okay.
two starts this season, the 24-year-old Lowder has a 1.64 ERA. Through 8 career big league starts, he has a 1.30 ERA. It is the lowest mark by a Red in that span since earned runs became an official stat in both leagues in 1913. It's also the fifth, as you mentioned, with other great names like Fernando Valenzuela, who I believe is atop this list. He is the fifth lowest mark, or has the fifth lowest mark by any major league pitcher, minimum of 30 innings, through his first 8 career starts in the expansion era, and that dates back to 1961. Anytime you see greatness, you appreciate it for what it is. But when you see greatness in context of major league history, which is significant, then it hits home in a much different way, I feel. And that's the way I feel about Rhett Lowder. And I kind of feel the same way about Chase Burns, although the numbers aren't quite the same.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to think that their stock isn't going up. I mean, certainly there's going to be hiccups along the way. I mean, there is. It's not a perfect science to pitch, and there's going to be things that happen. You get tired. I mean, they're both kind of going through the. Burns got a little bit more exposure to this as a rookie than Lowder, but pitching every fifth day, pitching when you're not feeling best, pitching on a hot day, pitching on a rainy day, pitching on a freezing cold day. There's going to be lots of stuff that's going to be thrown at them, but I feel like, at least so far, and based on what I've seen of them since they've come into my purview in the organization, they just seem to handle things really well. They're not fired up people. They are on the mound. I know Burns certainly gets fired up in the mound, but inside the clubhouse and anywhere else, they just seem to be pretty mild mannered. They just handle stuff.
What Jose Trevino said, and you had this quote right after that paragraph that I just read, it's pretty impressive. His demeanor out there, meaning Rhett Lowder's, his attitude towards it all, you could tell he's going to be good for a long time. I think that exactly speaks to his character, and I think he would probably tell you the same thing about Chase Burns. Speaking of Chase Burns, Mark, speaking with Mark Sheldon of MLB.com, doing an awesome job covering the Cincinnati Reds. We obviously had some concerns about 3 weeks into spring training about the mobility of his right shoulder and the dexterity and how much movement he was getting. Have those concerns been kind of quieted and calmed throughout the organization?
Seems like it. I mean, obviously, to outsiders like myself, so to speak, not in the inner circle of the pitching coach and Tito
Right.
Francona and Chase Burns. It was a little weird seeing him throw those 2 innings against the Giants in Scottsdale, and then having the word deload introduced to our vernacular. And it was like, well, what's that about? And then he talked about range of motion, okay, and flexibility and trying to get on a routine. Well, it sounded like that one step back helped him take many steps forward, because he does seem to be very comfortable in this routine of every 5 days of now he's pitched, he hasn't had any short starts of the 2 he's had, so nothing really too alarming. And he seems like he was fine when he pitched in Milwaukee. I didn't see the game, but he had a nice start in Milwaukee in the exhibition game. So he seems to have found the groove, and he's on a routine that seems to be working for him. And certainly, they are not going to take any chances with that arm, as important as it is for him and Lowder and Brandon Williamson to kind of get the rotation over this hump until at least Lodolo gets back, and then eventually when Greene gets back. They have to protect these guys, and they will. They're not going to ask them to do anything. Giving Burns the 7th inning was not being disregarding his health in any way, shape, or form. They wouldn't have done it if they didn't think he could do it, and I think that's important to know too. They are not afraid to shut him down if they need to, or take a step back, and they're certainly not afraid to push him when he shows he's ready.
The one observation I've made about the Cincinnati Reds bullpen in the first 9 games, when they throw strikes, they're pretty good. The only time they seem to get into trouble, Mark, is when they start putting guys on base, issuing free passes. And obviously that's a truism in relief pitching throughout Major League Baseball. We understand that. But it seems to be particularly the case with the Reds. If they avoid the base on balls, this bullpen looks pretty doggone impressive. And what I think we saw over the weekend with Brock Burke throwing that perfect inning in the ninth with 3 strikeouts, they've got guys that can deal. And a good bullpen to me starts with a lot of answers in it.
Yeah, I mean, this bullpen's deeper than the one that they had last year for sure, and they showed it yesterday Sunday. I'm not sure when this is going out, but on Sunday when you had Pagan, Ashcraft, and Santion, they all both worked the Friday and Saturday games. They were not going to pitch on Sunday, and they got to the into the 7th inning. They didn't get an out yet when they had to start going to the bullpen, and all the guys that usually pitch either in down games or the ones that are maybe earlier in the game, like they may see them in the 5th or 6th, they were all front and center, and they all, whether it was Sam Maul who got that strikeout to end the 7th, whether it was Connor Phillips, I believe, had the
Connor
8th.
Phillips, yes,
yeah, and he's been. We'll get back to him in a second, but he got through it. And then Brock Burke, who had never had a save before in his career, which is kind of amazing. He got to do it in Texas for the team that designated him for assignment a couple of years ago. And, he was very motivated to go out there. And once he knew that he was going to get the ball in the 9th, he was excited, and he went out and blew him away. So that says a lot about where this bullpen is depth-wise. I think with getting back to the walks, Connor Phillips needs to clean it up.
Yes,
no doubt. I mean, and he's been told this now already by Tito Francona. Him walking the first 2 batters now, he's done that twice, and I don't know if he's had that many clean of his maybe 4 or 5 outings. I think only one's been clean, and that's something that's I think it's going to come. He's got great stuff, and I know they feel really good about him. But in order for him to get more trust to pitch in the later innings, and I think that's where he's trending eventually, that he could be a late inning guy rather than an earlier guy. The walks are going to have to be cleaned up, because that's an area where he's got great stuff. He just has to throw with better command.
Well, I mean, I think everybody was blown away, literally and figuratively, with the way he handled that first Reds win of the year. That 11-inning game over the Red Sox came in. Again, the bullpen was pretty depleted, and he needed to go 2 innings, and he went to 10th and 11th. And I think it was the 11th that was his only perfect inning this year, to your point. But
So, yeah.
when he does get the ball over the plate, his stuff is electric. And it's exciting to see a Reds bullpen with lots of different answers. Like, it's not just Tony Santion in the 8th and Emilio Pagan and hope his arm doesn't fall off in the 9th. That's kind of the sense I think a lot of Reds fans had over the last couple of years, and I think reasonably so. But it now appears that the Reds have more and more options at the back end of that bullpen, and I think that it's going to help Francona's cause going forward.
Certainly, and if the pitchers as Lowder gets more experience and as Burns gets more experience, certainly Abbott's capable of it. Certainly Singer's capable of it. Is the later those guys go, the better it makes the bullpen. Maybe you don't use up all 3 of your best relievers in the same game. Maybe you get to the 8th and you go right to Santion and Ashcraft's still available.
Mm-hmm.
Longer starts begats stronger bullpens too. So as well as the bullpen's been pitching, there's only been 2 quality starts so far, and actually
That's hard.
Three quality starts. Excuse me.
Yes.
3 quality starts out of the 9. And the last 2 of them came Burns and Lowder over the weekend. So when guys start working deeper, get better starts, that shortens the game very quickly. And you can go to your bullpen guys, and you'll have fresher guys, and you won't be running through them as much.
All right. I don't think TJ Friedl is going to hit 100 all season long. And he's gotten off to a tough start. And the reason we kind of zero in here on TJ Friedl, he is a critical part of what the Reds want to do offensively. And he was told that, obviously, we've discussed this before, he was told this by Terry Francona during spring training. We need you to find different ways to get on base. That's your job. Set up Matt McLean, Ellie, Sal Stewart, and then obviously Gino Suarez. That is his job. But it hasn't gone well to start the year. The 3 hits and the 30 at-bats. 7 walks, that's okay. The 11 strikeouts is not. What are your observations about TJ Friedl to start this year, Mark?
Yeah, same thing. The strikeouts is what I was about to zero in on. Is it's a lot of strikeouts for someone who doesn't generally strike out a ton. One of his weapons that you like to see is the bunting, and he hasn't been able to. I don't know if he's gotten a bunt down yet, as a way of kind of breaking it up. You know, they've been playing him in a lot more. I've noticed third basemen are, even with 2 outs, are trying to take away the bunt. I mean, I don't agree. I agree that I don't think he's going to hit 100. Like last year, you think about Spencer Steer and how he started out the first 4 or 5 weeks, and he came around, and Tyler Stevenson had a rough kind of go of it his first 20 or 15 games and came around. The term not pushing the panic button has been very popular around some of these hitters. And I would say with Friedl, certainly Steer and Stevenson still are working on trying to get out of, get hot. Noelvi Marte's only got one little 29-mile-an-hour infield squib for a hit so far. As Dusty Baker often says, water seeks its own level. And I think with some of these guys, you will see the numbers get a little bit more similar to what's on the back of their baseball card, or more modernly on the front of their baseball reference page. So we'll see what happens. But I think Friedl is, one thing that does bode well for him is over the long haul is with Dane Myers now in center field as an option in the late innings, as a chance to also, if Friedl needs days off, he does get beat up by playing center field. He uses his body a lot, and having Myers as an option to give him a spell, I think will help Friedl in the long run.
What about Matt McLain? He's, after that unreal spring training that he had, he's hitting 235. He's slashing 235, 366, 265. No home runs yet, which surprises me a little bit given the way he was driving the ball in spring training. What are your thoughts about Matt McLain?
Kind of the same thing. Give them a little space. If it's 9 games, spring training is so hard because with the home runs, for instance, when you're up at Arizona, the air is thinner. It's a lot of higher altitude. It's certainly warmer than maybe it has been around here in Cincinnati or some of the other. Certainly in Texas, it wasn't that. It was indoors, but you just can't really judge anything to it yet. I mean, he's been doing some smart things. He's been running the bases well. The things that he does well, he's been doing well. Like defense and running. Those were the things that kept him in the lineup last year. And I think he feels good. He was definitely swinging the bat really well in spring training. And I think, certainly that, as in baseball, it is a 162 game season, but when you add the spring training and all the at bats you get there, it's even longer, and there's going to be some up and down. And I don't know. Certainly last year it was a little worrisome that he never really got going, but I feel like he's got enough going for him this year that he will get going. What we'll see. He has to do it, obviously.
Well, he does. But to your point, Mark, what was most important, well beyond the numbers in spring training about Matt McLain, is he looked like a healthy major league ball player. And
he did.
And you figure if he's healthy, he's going to hit, because we've seen it before from him. We saw it in spring training. He is going to hit. He's obviously shown that his fielding has improved. And that is something I want to touch on real briefly. A couple of subjects here. The improvement in the Reds defense, as you mentioned, knock wood, they haven't committed an error yet this season, which is a pretty impressive way to start the season. It's also a really good way to win close games. I believe they lead the majors in games decided by 2 runs or fewer. That's a great way to win close ball games, is the defense.
All 6 of their wins are 2 runs or less. And those were games sometimes last year they didn't win, quite frankly. They didn't hit well in those situations, or they didn't squeak a run in. I think they certainly would like to see more of Suarez's type of run production when they got from him and his couple homers. But right now there's about 4 guys in that lineup that aren't hitting that well, and they have to find ways to create. And defense is one way to create. Run prevention is almost as important as run scoring. So, and defense was a huge priority about this offseason, going back to when they acquired Ke'Bryan Hayes, and he's made that left side of the infield really good. I mean, you see him take plays and go after balls that past third baseman wouldn't do, including going in front of De La Cruz to his left and getting balls and firing to first base. And I think I don't think Candelaria was doing that. And I know Espinal was very talented as well, but it was not on the regular and not Gold Glove level like you have with Hayes. So and De La Cruz has made he hasn't been charged with an error. He's got a couple of plays that were suspect that could have been errors, maybe they were hits. But between McLean at second base, very good defense. You got third base, Hayes. Sal Stewart has played. He had a really, really smart play yesterday on a fielder's choice where the ball kind of got by him. He was able to grab it and he fired a second because the runner was indecisive, and he was able to get a 3-4 fielder's choice out of that, which was remarkable because it kept a guy out of scoring position while
scoring position, exactly.
Yeah, and then in the outfield you have between Friedl in left field or center field, and with Dane Myers and Spencer Steer's been playing pretty well for the most part. And Will Benson. I mean, gosh, he's not the regular right fielder, but look how many plays he just made in the last couple of games where he, especially, I think it was on Saturday, he tracked down a lot of balls to hit to right field, and they looked like they could be either going into the gap or whatnot, and he was able to get them, and that's a real kudos for him. So, Marte is still learning right field, but I think in order for the Reds to win these close games, they have to play tight defense, they have to pitch, and then so far they've done that.
Speaking with Mark Sheldon of Reds.com and MLB.com. For those of you listening to this show, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like, and leave a review. And for those watching the show on CLNS, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the CLNS Media and Cincinnati Sports Studio YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of other great Reds and Cincinnati sports content. Also, please make sure to turn on your notifications so that you know the very instant when a new video drops. Finishing up here, Code Reds podcast with Mark Sheldon of MLB.com. What is the latest on Nick Lodolo? I think we had high hopes that when he was making his rehab start, I'm sure Terry Francona did as well, that it would be, a one-stop shop in Daytona Beach. He'd make that one single-A appearance. He retired the first 8 batters, and lo and behold, he has to leave with a blister on that same left index finger. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do, honestly. There doesn't seem to be a remedy yet that works, and I don't know how many other ones they've tried. He said he was doing fine. He thought he was in the clear, and then on that 40th pitch of a planned 60 to 65, he felt the blister when he threw a slider. Right now, he's kind of in, take it easy on his finger mode. They had him play catch yesterday with a plyo ball, which I'm sure you've seen are those colored balls that have no stitches on them. They're kind of rubbery. Some of them are weighted, and that's how he's playing catch for now to keep the finger from getting too much friction, to keep his arm moving. It's where the concern lies with Lodolo is it's going to get to a point soon where he's going to have to go back and build up again, because he threw only 10 pitches in his final spring training start before the blister happened. He got 40 on the other day, on Thursday. And, I don't know when he's going to pitch again. Right now, he's got to play catch until that finger heals and then see what happens. But if he gets to the point where they take too much time, he's going to have to build up again. And that's going to prolong his timetable.
Yeah, it happened. The initial injury happened against Cleveland Guardians, I believe, on that final Sunday before they went up to
March
Milwaukee.
22nd. Yeah,
right. And then you thought, okay, they've got this under control because it happened so early in the season. They'd be able to get on top of this. He went out, and it looked like they were going to be on top of it, and then they have this setback. And it's a great point you make, Mark, about when a starting pitcher has to build back up, it's a process. And I'm not going to say it's going to be, months long. It's probably not that in terms of what we're looking at, but it is a process that the Reds have to go through that I think they were hoping to avoid, right?
Absolutely. If he doesn't have to start from scratch, it obviously makes the process a little shorter. If he does, it'll probably take 3 to 4 starts to build up to get to 60 to 80 pitches. And that's even the low number that you'd want Lodolo ready for, because certainly you'd like to think that he can go 100 eventually, but they'll take the low number if they need to, but as long as his finger's ready. And that's the thing is, for whatever reason, where on the pad of his finger where he throws that slider and he grips it, it creates that problem. And changing grips is kind of fraught with issues because it might affect his delivery. Changing anything about his mechanics could affect his delivery and then create other problems like elbow, shoulder. And that's the last thing you want to do. So they have to really just find a way to toughen the skin up in a way that prevents blisters. I mean, it's been a problem ever since people started throwing baseballs. It's been a problem for some pitchers more than others. And this is one of his problems. He's had it in the minor leagues. He's had it the last 2 seasons in the big leagues. And it's an ongoing issue.
Yeah, you feel bad for him because he wants to be part of this and he wants to obviously enjoy the success that the team is having out of the gate. Really quick, in 60 seconds, the story behind your hat. I am a hat person. People have seen it on my show before. I have a couple of 1975 Big Red Machine ball caps behind me, 75, 76, and 1990. The story behind yours in 60 seconds.
Not too much of a story. I like hats that are hard to find, and I don't have that many. I don't wear major league caps for obvious reasons, but I like hats that are a little unique. I have a Monterrey Sultanas cap that I was able to get in Mexico when the Reds were down there. I've always liked Japanese baseball. I like to watch it when I can on television. My bucket list is to go to a game in Japan. The Giants, the Yomiuri Giants, are obviously the most famous team. And I had a colleague, my Mariners colleague, took a personal trip to Japan over the offseason, and I saw he was there, and I texted him, hey, if I give you money, will you buy me a Yomiuri Giants cap? And Daniel Kramer of the Mariners beat came right through. Look at this. And he gave it to me at spring training, and I love it. It fits great. And you can't find these here in the United States. The fitted Japanese caps. You have to kind of work for them on the internet a little bit and make it happen. So I was able to cut out the middleman and get right from the guy.
I was able to sit next to Pat Brennan, who picked up the hat from
That's right.
the said Seattle Mariners beat reporter when I was out covering the Mariners and Reds my final day in Arizona. Well, anyway, I've taken up enough of your time. Mark Sheldon, he does a fabulous job covering the Cincinnati Reds. You know that by now, for MLB.com. Be sure to read all of his great stuff, the latest on Chase Burns and Rhett Lowder. It's up on Reds.com right now. I want to thank the folks at CLNS Media who helped put this podcast together. And for all of you, thank you very much for downloading this episode of the Code Reds podcast on the CLNS Media Network.